Hello, music fans. November 2024 is over, so now it's time for me to count down my top 10 favorite releases in music in November 2024 in metal, rock, and prog. Starting with my number 10, this is an EP by the Pineapple Thief called The Last to Run, or just Last to Run. And this is progressive rock with alternative rock influences. Their Pineapple Thief is a great band from the UK. They released a full-length album earlier this year that's excellent, so I was hoping they'd continue their greatness with this, and they deliver yet again. It's a very good collection of songs. Personally, I just wish they wrote a few more songs, even if it took them longer. Would have loved to just have this be a full length that came out in 2025. And I wish they took a few more risks because they all play pretty safely within the bounds that you'd expect for the Pineapple Thief. But they have a great sound. The songwriting's great. My favorite track is the opening track, All Because of Me. Number 9 is a band called Mur, M-U-R. U has a little accent on it. And this is progressive post-metal. The debut album by this band from Iceland. And big thanks to Rhyme Signatures for putting this on my radar. If you're a fan of The Ocean, Cult of Luna, I think you'll like this. It's got a bit of Sigur Rós vibes as well. Great to hear another great Icelandic band. Check out Mur and their self-titled debut album. Number 8, I have Isbjorg with their album Falter and gyönyörű. Now this is a Danish band and this is their second album. It's kind of neo-prog rock. It's got some alternative, got some metal influences in there. Check out the song Solitaire for a preview of this one. And also the opening track Ornaments, another great one. I heard that ahead of time. That's what made me check this album out. Really nice odd time rhythms in the song Solitaire. The melody and the vocals are just beautiful and emotional. And this is just a great album by Isbjorg. It made me want to listen to their debut album, and I also love that one too. At number 7, I have Klone with their album The Unseen. This is progressive metal. It's a lighter progressive metal one, very atmospheric, some rock influence, alternative metal, post-metal, groove metal in there. Check out the song Interlaced as a preview. Now, this is the 8th album by Klone. They're a French band, and I love their last album, Meanwhile, from 2023. The singles I heard from this album ahead of time sounded quite similar to the sound of Meanwhile. If you're a fan of Tool, Deftones, The Ocean, Sigur Rós, Cult of Luna, check it out because I think you'll like this band Klone. It's a mix of those sounds. However, they just do clean vocals. There's no screaming here. It's pretty accessible progressive metal music. It's very atmospheric progressive post-metal. And it's got an early 2000s alternative metal and new metal kind of guitar tone. And they feature saxophone, so that brings an interesting sound that you don't hear as often in this style of music. This is just an excellent album. I should say all the albums that I'm going to talk about in my video today, I'm putting the Pineapple Thief in just my very good tier, but all the other ones are in my excellent tier, and my number 1 is just a masterpiece. So stay tuned to the end to hear what that is. You might already know what it is if you're a regular viewer of my channel. So, this album by Klone, The Unseen, I don't think it breaks any new ground for them, but I also don't think they have to because they've carved out a pretty nice and unique niche sound that is recognizably them. I do think the final track, Spring, was just a little longer than it needed to be. That's my one criticism. That outro went too long on the same kind of instrumental guitar riff. Could have stayed under 10 minutes instead of being over 12. Number 5, I have number 6, I have Joey Frevola with Art Supplies and Pain. Now, this is a progressive metal rock opera. It's got some art rock, folk, and classical influences here. Check out the song Pain for a preview. And big thanks to Christian for the recommendation on this in our group chat. This is the second album by Joey Frevola. He's a film composer and guitarist. He began writing music at the age of 12. He formed progressive metal band Edge of Reality during high school. And after studying composition at Belmont University, he began writing and performing with UK-based progressive rock band Kairos in 2014. Kairos also released an amazing album this year. He released his first solo album, Gone, in 2019, which I haven't heard yet. But there's a lot of variety and experimentation on this album, Art Supplies and Pain. There's classical bits, opera-style vocals, male and female vocals. Then there's progressive metal, jazz, and classic 70s prog rock, as well as art rock and folk. It really just sounds like ADHD prog metal rock opera, like Arion meets Mr. Bungle, but also for fans of Devin Townsend and an endless sporadic. And his Bandcamp says he plays with an endless sporadic, so that makes sense. The song Svarta is a hilarious and fun song. It's an opera duet with male and female vocals over prog metal music that sounds like it's about trying to follow some directions when putting together furniture with your spouse, like IKEA directions or something like that, where there's only pictures and no text. I thought that was a really fun song, and in general, this is a really fun album, maybe the most fun album to listen to on this list. Joey Frevola with his album Art Supplies and Pain. At number 5, I have the Catafalque with their album 12, and then it's a very hard to pronounce foreign title that I'm not even going to bother. Maybe I'll put these album titles in the description so you can see how to spell it. This is a Hungarian band, so I assume the title's Hungarian. It's their 12th album. This is avant-garde progressive black metal with some post-metal, death metal, symphonic, and experimental rock influences. Check out the song Mindanavo as a preview. And I thought the last album by the Catafalque called Halfold was just excellent. It's all over the place. Black metal at its core, mostly black metal shrieking vocals, but there was clean vocal sections. Some sections on Halfold sounded almost like dance music. There was flute, there was violin in different parts, and it was a wild adventure. Now this one, 12, is also a wild adventure. I was lucky and happy to hear that. But this one has more clean vocals. There's lots of clean vocals, melody on here. There's also lots of intensity and variety, and some parts sound like Middle Eastern music, some like electronic music, and some sound like intense metal with some shrieks, but it's all enjoyable and very well done. So check out the Catafalque and their latest album 12 if that sounds good to you. At number 4, I have Neal Morse and the Resonance with their album No Hill for a Climber. This is symphonic progressive rock, also in my excellent tier. Check out the track Eternity in Your Eyes for a preview, and this is the debut album by this band. But Neal Morse himself is a very prolific industry veteran. He's released many solo albums as well as many albums with Spock's Beard, Transatlantic, and the Neal Morse Band. Most of the albums Neal's involved with are excellent, so I was looking forward to hearing this. And I think this is even better than his last 2 Joseph albums that he did, which I already thought were excellent. And this album also contains some pretty epic long tracks. This starts with a 21-minute long prog epic, Eternity in Your Eyes. It ends with a 29-minute prog epic, No Hill for a Climber. Then there's 3 shorter songs in the middle. Every song is excellent. I'm not as into the lyrical content on Neal Morse albums because he does go a bit far into the Christian themes for my liking, but the music here is just undeniably excellent. I give him a pass on the lyrics not being to my taste. At number 3, I've got Vola with their album Friend of a Phantom. This is progressive metal, kind of gent, but a lot of alternative rock, post-metal, art rock, and pop influences in here. Check out the track Cannibal, which features Anders Frieden of In Flames doing guest vocals, which is great. This is the 4th album by this Danish band. I enjoyed their early singles that I heard from this, so I checked this out. It's a very accessible and catchy progressive metal album. Some borderline radio rock vibes on here, but there's enough interesting rhythms and style shifting to keep it sounding fresh, unique, and sophisticated for prog fans as well. It's the track Cannibal, featuring Anders Frieden of In Flames, has an awesome catchy chorus. It has a bouncy, groovy guitar riff. And most of the vocals are clean, but Anders delivers excellent harsh vocals. One of the riffs that starts just after the 3-minute mark is very syncopated. It's awesome. It reminds me of Tesseract. And when I listened to this album, it also inspired me to go back and listen to a couple of their earlier albums, which are also excellent. So I'll be keeping my eye on Vola going forward too. If that sounds good to you, check out Friend of a Phantom by Vola. And number 2, I've got Beardfish with Songs for Beating Hearts. Now, this is a prog rock album, and check out the track In the Autumn if you want a preview of this. This is the 9th album by this Swedish band, Beardfish. And before this album, I'd surprisingly never listened to an album by them in full, but I had heard great things. And the singles from this album were all, well, it was just excellent. So I was looking forward to this. One minor criticism I have is I don't think they should have split the epic out in the open into 5 tracks. It should have just been one. I do plan to make a video this year of my favorite epics of the year, but I think I'll be disqualifying that one because I think there are enough epics this year where they actually left them as one track on streaming and one track on the album. So I'm going to make that a rule to qualify for my list this year. So unfortunately, this band doesn't qualify for my greatest epics list. But besides that little nitpick, the album is excellent. I'm assuming they just do that for more streaming revenue, which, whatever, it makes sense. I can't really blame them, but for some reason it just rubs me the wrong way. I like the track to be all in one piece. If I put it on a playlist, it should go on as one track. But my favorite track was actually this single In the Autumn. It has a yes reference around the 4-minute mark after they say, and I think that the answer is yes. It follows by a riff that's very similar to the yes riff from Tempest Fugit. And it also references the Eurythmics song Here Comes the Rain Again with the lyric Talk to Me Like Lovers Do. And since hearing this album from Beardfish, I've gone back, I've listened to some other Beardfish albums, and so far they've just all been excellent. This is definitely a band for me to keep my eye on going forward. If that sounds good to you, check out Songs for Beating Hearts by Beardfish. And lastly, my number one of only 2 albums that I've given the masterpiece tier rating to this year is Opeth's new album, The Last Will and Testament. This is progressive death metal with prog rock, jazz fusion, acoustic influences in there. 14th album by this Swedish band. I think my favorite track right now is probably Paragraph 1, to be honest, but I don't know if it's hard to pick. Like, you have to listen to this album in full. I just did a full-length album review on my channel, so I'm not going to talk about this too much. Definitely go check that out. I think I'll put it here, 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 something like that. But check out this album. Opeth brought back the growls here, but it's not too heavily done. Even if you're not a fan of growl vocals and you prefer their prog rock era, definitely check out this album. It's a concept album. It needs to be heard from start to finish. It takes a few listens to get into. There's a story set in the post-World War era that tells the story of a wealthy conservative patriarch whose last will and testament reveals shocking family secrets. If that sounds good to you, check out Last Will and Testament by Opeth. That's it for my 10 favorite albums of November 2024. What do you think of these albums? Let me know down in the comments. And what were your favorite albums of November 2024? Let me know if I missed anything good. And stay tuned for next time. Peace out.